This week's episode of PokeClass is sponsored by Collector's Cash, your #1 place to go for all your single cards and sealed products. Make sure you check them out after the show at www.collectorscash.com. Hello everyone, Dan here and welcome to episode 107 of PokeClass, where today we are taking a look at something a little bit different from traditional competitive tournament play. It's that time of year again when the professors of the Pokemon TCG world, the ones that keep our tournaments running smoothly, are rewarded for their efforts by being able to participate in their own special tournaments, one in North America and one in Europe. However, the tournament structure for these two tournaments, which are a yearly occurrence, are famous for having one special rule that changes the way people need to build and play their decks to be able to get to the top. But before we get into that, let's have a look at some key information about the events. Firstly, the American tournament, which is being held at the Indiana Convention Center in Indianapolis on the same 3 days as the National Championships, being the 5th to the 7th of July. Now, I believe that this is done because it allows both players in Nationals and players that want to attend the Professor Cup to be able to do so, as the Professor Cup Swiss is spread over the first 2 days and are to be played after the Swiss rounds for Nationals take place. However, this is always going to be a dodgy topic, as we know from last year that Nationals can never be kept to a certain time frame, but it is good that they have made the extra effort to make sure that players are able to participate in both tournaments if they wish to do so. So the European Professor Cup this year is to be held right here in the UK, the day before UK Nationals in Birmingham on the 31st of May. This means that you'll definitely be able to play in the Professor Cup and UK Nationals if that's what you'd like to do, as they are on completely different days, with this cup starting and ending on the same day. To me, it's awesome that Professor Cup is coming to the UK, as it means that many players from around Europe will be coming to the UK to see how we do things rather than having us travel somewhere else. This also opens up the opportunity to maybe hold larger European events in the future, who knows. UK Nationals is being made a much larger event this year, so it seems a great idea to me to have the rest of Europe come to experience not only the Professor Cup over here, but also mingle in at our Nationals as well. Anyway, now you know where the events are, how can you enter and what do you win? Well, for the American Cup, you will need to be a professor at the time of the tournament with 70 or more credits to your name, whereas the European professors must have 40 or over to be eligible for the tournament. But you want to know what you can win, right? Well, here is the prize structure for both tournaments. The winners of each respective Professor Cup will win a very nice trophy and also the traditional Kindle, as well as the also traditional backpack with the Professor logo sewn on. Second place will also receive the Kindle and backpack, but only a second place trophy instead, and third place will get a backpack and trophy. From there, 4th to 8th in Europe will get a backpack, whereas 4th to 16th in the US will get backpacks too. So there are some pretty cool prizes on the line, and on top of that, each game will offer up some booster packs for the winner and the loser. When a round of Swiss begins, a set of 3 booster packs will be placed on the table, and the winner of that game will receive 2 of them, and the loser will receive just 1. I think that this is a really nice idea, as this offers up a reward to everyone who takes part, even if you do lose every game. Say there are 6 Swiss rounds, you'll end up with 6 packs. Not too shabby. But if you go all the way, you'll be collecting up a very nice haul of boosters. So the tournament structure for these events is exactly the same as normal tournaments, with Swiss rounds and a maximum top cut of 16. But the rounds will be just 20 minutes long with the extra 3 turns instead of the full 30, because this tournament is played with just 30 card decks and 3 prize cards. So here is where we get to the special deck rules for the Professor Cup, starting with what was just mentioned, building with just 30 cards in mind and 3 prize cards to take, but it does get very different with this year's special deck rule. Just before I say what the rule is, do note that with a 30 card deck you may only have 2 copies of each card maximum in your deck, the exceptions being Ace Specs, as they can only have 1, and Basic Energy of course. Anyway, this year's rule is called Kiddie Pool and states that decks must be from Black and White and onwards, but the only Pokemon that can be used are Pokemon that can evolve into Stage 1s or Stage 2s. Now this is very interesting, as this bumps out every single EX in the format, meaning that we're going to see a completely new pool of decks doing well at this tournament. The way this works is that you can pretty much only use Basics and Stage 1s that evolve, as Stage 2s can't evolve past that, meaning that they are eligible to play. For example, you can use both Piplup and Primplup because they can still evolve, but you cannot use Empoleon as he cannot evolve past the stage 2 for obvious reasons. This will make things very interesting and will limit the maximum HP a hell of a lot compared to what we're used to at the moment. So what kind of ideas are floating around at the moment, or what interesting stuff can you make with this new format? Well, let's take a look for the rest of the video. So the first deck that has sprung to mind and that I've seen on a couple of forums already is Electric. Electric is a tried and tested successful deck in the competitive world, so should have a chance in the limited format, and it is legal under the new rule as Dynamo evolves into Electric and Electric can evolve into Electros, so both abide by the rules. However, the challenge is finding another attacker for the deck that not only works off of lightning energy, but can also evolve to abide by the normal rules. Here enters Pikachu, the secret rare Pokemon from the original black and white base set. So this guy is completely legal in the format as it can possibly evolve into Raichu, and it also is going to work very nicely with Electric because of its attack Thunderbolt. This attack requires a lightning energy and 2 colorless, and you can then do 80 damage, which is very nice in the cup format in exchange for you discarding a single lightning energy. Obviously, this is going to pair very well with Electric as you can recycle the energy as much as you like, and even on the first turn you can go ahead and get lightning in the discard thanks to the likes of Ultra Ball, and then attach it through Energize, Pikachu's first attack, so that you can get attacking by 80 for possibly turn 2. The only downside to this guy is the fact that it only has 60 HP, meaning that they may be hitting the discard fairly quickly, especially if you come across any fighting types, as this deck is already quite hyped for the tournament. The only issue with running Eels in a 3-prize format is that 40 HP is tiny on those Dynamos when Laser and Verbank are still in there, and pretty much anything can do the extra 10 damage needed for that knockout. Moving on to possibly the second most hyped deck for the cup so far is Whirlipede, but I believe that this deck may be a little bit weak compared to everyone making out to be really good at the moment. The idea behind this deck is to use Whirlipede from emerging powers and its attack Venoshock for a single psychic energy to do 70 damage, and then pair it with Laser to get the initial poison required, and then Verbank damage to make the attack do effectively 100 damage in total. Now this is all well and good, but do remember that you can only have a maximum of 2 of each card in every deck, which means you'll only be able to pull off this combo twice, leaving you with an attacker that only does 10 damage for a single energy. You may be able to keep up attaching and trying to get that steamroller attack going, but that is really underwhelming to try and grab your final prize. Maybe you could try something with Recycle to try and get lasers back, but other than that, I don't feel this combo is going to be as good as players are making it out to be right now. Another deck that has been brought to light includes a fighting Pokemon, because as we know, when Dark or Lightning Pokemon become big, there's always an opportunity for fighting types to wreck the party. So this is where Krokorok from Black and White comes in. Krokorok still fits within the rules as its basic can obviously evolve, and then Krokorok can evolve into Crocodile, so everything is fine there. What makes Krokorok interesting is its attack called Torment, which costs just a single colorless energy for a measly 10 damage, but the effect of the attack is that you can choose one of the defending Pokemon's attacks and they cannot use that attack the next turn. So for example, when you're against the likes of Pikachu, you can go ahead and completely disable their Thunderbolt attack while doing 20 damage to them thanks to weakness, meaning they either have to retreat or use Switch to try and attack the following turn. The issue with this is that I feel it's a little bit too easy to get out of, and it's going to take a while to knock out just one Pokemon with this guy before they even get enough damage on you, but I guess Torment will slow them down just that little bit. Either way, this is still another great idea. It can also be teched in if you're fearing those Pikachus in any deck, as it runs off of just colorless energy. Apart from that, there hasn't been too much other discussion when it comes to decks emerging from this, as it is kind of a new subject at the moment. Regardless, here are a few other ideas I've come across when browsing through binders and collections. The first two are to be used in the form of starters, which are Minccino and Elgyem. Minccino is the obviously inferior one, as its call for family attack can only grab one basic Pokemon to put onto your bench, but Elgyem takes it one step further, allowing you to place 2 basics onto your bench, both of which take just a single colorless energy. Obviously, you won't be able to use Emolga, which would obviously be ideal as it has no retreat cost, but it doesn't evolve, unlike both of these Pokemon, who do come under the cup rules. Elgyem seems to be the best way to go if you're after a starter Pokemon in this kind of format, but I don't believe you will necessarily need to go down the starter route, as you've only got 3 prizes to give up and to get. The other interesting possible starter that I saw was Patrat, as it has an attack called Patrol for a single energy, and it allows you to reorganize the top 3 cards of your deck and put them back. This is obviously a little bit weaker than searching out Pokemon, but having the option to see what you're going to draw into is going to be great in certain situations. The next two I found were fire types that have very similar attacks that can hit for reasonably low energy and a decent amount of damage. The two Pokemon are Combusken from Dark Explorers and, more importantly, Monferno from Plasma Storm. Combusken is a little bit weaker as it needs the third energy to be able to attack, but 70 damage for doing so is definitely a nice number. The Monferno, however, has an attack for a fire and a colourless called Fire Tail Slap, which does 50 damage in exchange for discarding a single fire energy, which isn't too shabby. Pair that with the fact that Chimchar can do a simple 20 damage for a single energy, and you'll have a turn 2 KO on most things thrown at you. The first attack Monferno has, called Loud Howl, is also very interesting, as it forces your opponent to switch to active with one of their benched Pokemon, meaning that something they don't want to be switched into the active position, such as Electric, could end up there without you needing to waste a catcher. Overall, I feel Monferno is actually a pretty good attacker with a small energy cost that can take on the likes of Pikachu, maybe depending on who goes first. As for a couple of other ideas, Scyther from Dark Explorers can do 60 damage on turn 2 with the help of double colourless energy, and when paired with Laser, this could be quite damaging as it hits the magic 90 to get rid of Electrics. There's also Combee as a fun little Pokemon, as it can do 30 damage for a single grass energy, 60 with the help of Laser, and then it shuffles itself back into the deck. This is just a fun idea because it could be quite good if you can find a nice Pokemon to stay in the way while you try and get Combee back out of the deck to attack again, but it can also get the donk in many occasions. However, it could get donked itself if this is your only start facing a Laser and a simple Verbank, and the other thing you do need to be wary about is using this attack on the first turn with nothing benched. Now that would be silly. Another interesting Pokemon is Ivysaur, as I looked into Pokemon that can deal poison without having to use lasers, which Ivysaur can do with the help of 2 grass energy and a colourless. The energy cost I feel may just be a little bit too high, but it could be hitting for 80 damage while Verbank is there, and you could even fit in a couple plus power to make it even more effective. Maybe a little bit out there, but it's all about innovation. So overall, the Professor Cup format is a fun one, and I bet there are a couple of other hidden gems out there which players may discover before the tournaments come around. If you have any other further ideas than the ones mentioned in the video, then please do put them in the comments below. I think it's a very nice change to tackle this format just for a little bit. And that is pretty much it from me this week. This format looks to be a nice change for competitive players at the moment, and even if you can't compete in the Professor Cup, definitely try it out with friends, as it is a very fun one. I hope that you enjoyed the different topic for a change as much as I enjoyed researching it, and if you did, then a like would be greatly appreciated on this video. Also, if you do happen to be new to the channel, please consider subscribing for more Pokemon content. So that's pretty much it from me this week. Have fun building decks, and I'll see you all next time.